And I don't deserve it. That hit me. People think kindness is weak. But kindness after cruelty? That's the strongest thing there is. That evening, Laura finally broke. We were alone in the kitchen. She said, "Evelyn, can I tell you something?" I nodded. She took a deep breath. I grew up watching my parents struggle. Bills piling up. My dad losing jobs. I promised myself I'd never live like that. Her voice cracked. And when Daniel told me how simple your life was, I panicked. I thought love wasn't enough. She looked at me with tears streaming down, so I turned my fear into poison. I lied to Daniel, she said. Over and over. I made you look cruel. So I wouldn't look greedy. I didn't interrupt. Sometimes people need to hear their own truth out loud. She continued. When I saw you walk away from my door that day, holding your tears. She covered her face. That's when I knew I crossed a line I could never erase. I placed my hand over hers. Laura, I said calmly. Fear makes people ugly. But staying ugly is a choice. She looked up. I don't want to be that person anymore. Robert watched all this from a distance. He didn't interfere. Didn't judge. One night he told me. She's not acting anymore. That guilt is real. For Robert, that was huge. He doesn't trust words. He trusts patterns. One night, Daniel did something different. Laura raised her voice. Just a little. Daniel stopped her. No, he said firmly. That tone doesn't belong in this house. She froze. Then nodded. I'm sorry. That moment? That was growth. The kids started running around the house. Laughing. Playing. They'd climb onto Robert's lap. Call me Grandma Ev. That laughter? It stitched broken places together. One afternoon, Laura came to me again. This time stronger. I don't expect forgiveness, she said. But I want to earn respect. That's fair, I replied. She smiled through tears. For the first time. I don't feel like running. That night, I sat alone. Thinking. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's choosing peace. Over replaying pain. But trust? Trust takes proof. And Laura's journey had just begun, honey. People think healing is some big dramatic moment. Like tears fall, apologies happen. And boom, everyone's fine. Nah. Real healing is quiet. It's boring. It's repetitive. It's waking up every day. And choosing to do better, again. That's what started happening in our house. Slowly. Almost invisibly. Mornings used to feel heavy. Now? They felt careful, but hopeful. Laura would make coffee for Robert first. Not because anyone asked her to. But because she wanted to. She'd ask. Is it too strong? Too weak? Small things. But small things build trust. Robert and I didn't hover. We watched. We listened. We noticed patterns. And Laura? She stayed consistent. No mood swings. No fake sweetness. Just steady effort, Robert whispered to me one night. She's learning. Daniel surprised me the most. He stopped being passive. One afternoon, an old family friend came over. And casually disrespected me. Before I could even react. Daniel said. That's my mom you're talking to. Watch your words. I froze. Robert looked up slowly. Proud. That moment? That was redemption starting to grow. Not everyone was kind. Some relatives whispered. She's only here for the money. Laura heard it. Instead of snapping. She She stayed quiet. Later she told me. I deserve suspicion. That honesty. That mattered, the kid saved us. Noah would climb onto Robert's lap and say, "Grandpa, tell me a story." Robert would smile, a real smile. I'd catch him wiping his eyes sometimes. Kids don't know about grudges. They just love. One rainy afternoon, Laura locked herself in the bathroom. I heard her crying. I knocked softly. She opened the door, face red. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Scared I'll mess up again." I hugged her. "Fear means you care now," I said. "And caring changes people." Robert gave Daniel responsibility at work. Not a big role. A humble one. "Earn it," Robert said. Daniel did. No shortcuts. No complaints. Day by day, there were setbacks. Awkward moments. Silences. But no disrespect. No manipulation. That alone was progress. One night, I sat alone again. I realized something. Forgiveness opened the door. Consistency kept it open. Laura was changing. Not because she had to. But because she wanted to, sweetheart. There comes a time in every man's life when he has to decide who he really is. Not who people think he is. Not who circumstances force him to be. But who he chooses to become. When it actually costs him something. That time came for Daniel, just when things inside our house were finally settling. The outside world showed up again. Old relatives. Old friends. Old opinions. Some came smiling. Some came judging. And some? They came testing. One afternoon, we had guests over. Someone laughed and said, "Well, looks like Daniel finally got lucky. Living off his parents' success now, huh?" The room went quiet. I felt that familiar tightening in my chest. Before Robert or I could say a word, Daniel stood up. He didn't shout. He didn't get aggressive. He said calmly, "My parents didn't build their life so I could feel small. They built it with honesty. And I'm proud to stand with them. Not behind them." Silence. Laura reached for his hand. That moment? That was strength. Later that night, Laura told me. I fell in love with him all over again. Not because of money. But because he finally stood up. That's the thing about respect. It grows attraction. Not control. Robert tested Daniel again. This time, publicly. He gave Daniel responsibility over a project. High pressure. No safety net. Daniel messed up once. Instead of blaming others, he owned it. Fixed it. Robert said nothing. But I saw that look in his eyes. Pride. People started noticing. Not the money. The change. Daniel stopped chasing approval. Laura stopped chasing control. They moved like a team. Not perfect. But honest. One evening, Noah asked Daniel, "Daddy, why do you love Grandma?" Daniel smiled. "Because she never gave up on me." I turned away so they wouldn't see me cry. That night, I realized something important. A son doesn't become a man when he gets married. He becomes a man when he learns how to protect the people who raised him. Daniel was finally there. Honey. There's one thing harder than apologizing. It's changing when nobody's forcing you to. That's where Laura's real journey began. Not when she cried. Not when she knelt. But when life stopped being gentle again. For a while, things felt normal. Not perfect. But steady. Laura laughed more. The kids felt safe. Daniel carried himself differently now, like a man who knew where he stood. But life has a funny way of checking your growth. It waits. Then it pokes the bruise point. One afternoon, Laura got a phone call. I noticed her face change. Color drained. Hands shaking. It was her mother. I didn't hear the full conversation. But I heard enough. You always depended on others. You'll never survive on your own. You married comfort, not character. Laura hung up and broke down. She locked herself in the room. Cried like she hadn't cried in years. That night, she came to me. Her voice was small. I became cruel because I was scared to be weak, she said. I thought power meant control. She looked at her hands. But it doesn't. The next morning, Laura did something unexpected. She dressed simply. No makeup. No armor. She went to volunteer at a women's shelter. Didn't tell anyone. Just went. She came back different. Quiet, but lighter. She said. Some of those women had nothing. Yet they had dignity. That hit her. Hard point. One woman at the shelter told Laura. I lost everything, but I didn't lose myself. Laura repeated that line to me later. Over and over. Like she was memorizing it, Robert noticed. He always does. She's not trying to impress anymore, he said. She's trying to understand. For Robert, that was trust forming. Daniel saw it too. Not just actions. Intentions. Laura started asking. What do you need? Instead of. What about me? That's a big shift. The kids leaned into Laura differently now. Not cautiously. Comfortably. Kids know. They sense safety. Point. One evening, Laura sat in front of me. No tears this time. Just honesty. I don't want forgiveness anymore, she said. I want accountability. That's when I knew. She wasn't pretending. That night, I whispered to myself. Some people fall so hard. Because they were climbing the wrong ladder. Laura finally stepped off it. But one last door. Still needed closing, you know, sweetheart. Some apologies are whispered behind closed doors. But the ones that actually heal? They happen where the wound was created. In the open. With witnesses. With no escape routes. That's the kind of apology Laura was walking toward now. Whether she was ready or not. Point. One morning, Daniel came to me holding an envelope. His hands were shaking. It's from my cousin, he said. They're hosting a family gathering. I already knew what he was thinking. Everyone would be there. The whispers. The judgment. The same people who watched Laura disrespect us. And said nothing. Daniel looked at Laura. She didn't hesitate. We're going, she said quietly. That's when I knew. She wasn't running anymore. On the way there, nobody spoke much. Robert stared out the window. Daniel gripped the steering wheel. Laura sat straight. Not defensive, not arrogant. Just, prepared. I watched her and thought. This is what courage looks like. Not loud. Not dramatic. Steady. The moment we entered the house. I felt it. Eyes turning. Conversations pausing. Someone whispered. That's her. Laura heard it. She didn't flinch. She walked over to me. And took my hand. That one move? It shut a lot of mouths. Nobody forced her. Nobody announced anything. But Laura stepped forward. Her voice didn't shake. I owe this family the truth, she said. The room went dead quiet. She looked at everyone. I disrespected Evelyn and Robert. When they had done nothing but love me. I lied. I manipulated. I humiliated. Gasps. Some people looked uncomfortable. Good, she turned to me. I called you poor, she said. As if money defines worth. I was wrong. Then she turned to Robert. You earned everything through integrity. I judged you without knowing your strength. She didn't cry. She didn't soften the words. She let them land. Daniel stepped forward. I failed too, he said. I chose silence when I should have chosen my parents. I won't do that again. That mattered. Because accountability shared is accountability that sticks. Some people looked away. Some nodded. Some wiped tears. And some were exposed. Because silence supports harm. And they'd been silent. Robert finally spoke. He stood slowly. I don't need public respect, he said calmly. I need private dignity. He looked at Laura. You're earning it now. That was big. Huge. Something changed in that room. Not magically. But noticeably. People started approaching us differently. Less judgment. More humility. Laura didn't glow. She exhaled. Like someone who'd been holding their breath. For years, that night, back home, I sat alone again. I realized something powerful. Forgiveness heals the victim. Accountability heals the offender. Laura had finally chosen both. But the story? It still needed closure, sweetheart. People think peace is loud. They think it looks like celebrations. Big smiles. Perfect family photos. But real peace? Real peace is quiet. It feels like breathing without your chest hurting. Like sleeping without replaying old scenes. Like sitting in a room full of people. And not feeling alone anymore. That's what finally settled into our home. Mornings used to remind me of everything we lost. Now, they reminded me of everything we survived. Laura would make breakfast. Daniel would help the kids get ready. Robert would sit with his coffee, calm as ever. No tension. No walking on eggshells. Just life, moving forward. One day, Noah climbed into my lap. He looked at me and said, Grandma, this is my home, right? I nodded. He smiled and hugged me tight. That hug? That was the moment I knew. The cycle had finally broken. Laura didn't try to be perfect. She tried to be present. She listened. She learned. She apologized when she slipped. One evening she said, I used to think love was about control. Now I know, it's about safety. I believed her. Not because of her words. Because of her consistency. Daniel changed too. He didn't just love us. He protected us. Not aggressively. Not dramatically. But firmly. That's what sons are supposed to do. One night he told me. I almost lost everything that mattered. I won't forget that. I kissed his forehead. Some lessons hurt. But they stick. Robert never bragged. Never reminded anyone of the past. But sometimes, I'd catch him smiling at the kids. A peaceful smile. The kind that says, it was all worth it. Now listen closely, honey. Families don't break because of money. They break because of ego. They don't heal because of success. They heal because of humility. Forgiveness isn't weakness. It's strength with a soft voice. And love? Love doesn't beg to be respected. It waits. Until people are ready to earn it. If you're listening to this story, and your heart feels heavy, know this. People can change. Not everyone. But some. And sometimes. Those are the ones worth waiting for. Sunrise final words. I'm Grandma Evelyn. And this was the story of my family. Not perfect. Not pretty. But honest. And finally. At peace.